Previewing Week 3 in the NFL here at SBRForum Videos. I'm Peter Loshak, and we are talking right now with Scott Kellen from 6centsports.com, one of my favorite guys to listen to when he's talking about NFL lines and handicapping NFL games. Scott, thanks for being back with us this week.
Hey, not a problem. Thanks for having me, Peter.
All right, before we get into Cleveland, Minnesota, the first game we're going to talk about, tell us a little bit about 6centsports.com.
Yeah, 6centsports.com. Anyone can go there if they're interested and take a look. As I've said every week, we're very transparent with our record. So you can see back to the last 11 seasons. All we do is NFL. We've won 9 out of the last 11 years, so we've been pretty consistent with the NFL. And so if they want to go ahead, they can take a look at the website, 6centsports.com. Check out the record, check out the packages that we have to offer, and if they have any interest or they have questions, just let us know. We'll be happy to get back to them and answer any questions they might have.
Okay, sounds great. Cleveland, Minnesota is the first game we're going to talk about. Minnesota's a 5-point home favorite, and it's kind of interesting. It opened at 3 at Bookmaker that I'm seeing. It opened at 3, then got bet up, then got pulled down, back down to 3 a few times, and now it's at 5. Minnesota, of course, 2 losses, and on the road now, their first home game. Cleveland awful in general, but I'm looking at this game. I'll tell you what I'm thinking here, and maybe I'm a little bit of a complete moron for thinking these things. But first of all, Brandon Whedon's out for Cleveland. Brian Hoyer's going to start at quarterback, and I'm thinking that might help them a little bit. They get back a big receiver, Josh Gordon. That could be a huge plus on offense. And Minnesota, obviously, Adrian Peterson. What else do they have? Not much. Christian Ponder, very unreliable. The defense isn't really clicking. I'm just thinking that maybe maybe Cleveland plus 5 is the right side here, and that all those, people who are betting the line when it hit 5 down to 3 are some sharp guys who have a real edge here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's probably a contrarian view, although maybe not. It's not a huge, strong play for me, but I lean to Cleveland as well. So, I live in Minneapolis, spend part of my time there, spend part of my time in Vegas, and I talked to my Viking friends, and I talked to one who's a pretty serious Viking friend this week, and he said, big game, must game, coming back home, they're going to win this game. Well, I don't think any of that stuff really matters. I went back and looked, and if you go back to 1983, in Week 3, a team coming home after having played 2 road games, those teams are 33, 56, and 1 against the spread. So they're hardly winners against the spread in terms of coming home for their first home game. And when they're taking on a team that has not won a game yet, in this case, obviously that is Cleveland, they're just 11, 19, and 1. So now they are 5 and 3 against the spread if they're favored by 5.5 or more. So it does look like against those winless teams that if they're a fairly large favorite, maybe they cash that ticket a little bit more, but there's no reason to think here, at least historically, in terms of what's happening against the spread, that just because the Vikings are coming home, playing their first home game, the crowd's going to be amped up for this game, et cetera, that they're going to cover the spread. So that aside, I do have quite a few situations on Cleveland this week, and I think kind of like you said, they're going to get back Josh Gordon. The quarterback play cannot be any worse than it was with Hoyer in there. So that's not going to get any worse. And, they have been bad. They're averaging, as I look here, I think, 4.3 yards a pass, and they played 2 teams that collectively give up 6.2 yards a pass. So that is just god-awful. But I don't think Hoyer's going to be any worse. And like you said, he's probably going to be an improvement. Hopefully they'll let Trent Richardson run the ball a little bit. And the one thing about the Vikings this year, they are giving up 4.2 yards a rush, which might seem okay, but the 2 teams they played are only averaging 3.5 yards a rush. So their rush defense has been well below average this year, and maybe they'll rely on Richardson a little bit, going a little bit. And then along with that, like you said, they get Josh Gordon back. And we already know they have a great defense, at least against the rush. They're only giving up, I think, 2 yards a rush this year. And they've got a shutdown quarter in Gordon as well. So I think their defense is very good. You give them a bunch of points, I think they can hang if they can get anything at all out of their offense at all. And that's kind of a big question mark, I guess. But they've got a very good tight end. They get Gordon back, which should help the passing game a little bit. Maybe get some improvement from the quarterback standpoint. The offensive line is okay, although they've given up a fair amount of sacks this year. If they can get Richardson running the ball a little bit at all and then hit some of those receivers, and their defense as a whole should keep them in the game. I almost played them last week. Obviously, I'm glad I didn't because they didn't cover. But they were in that game till the end with Baltimore. So, especially if this line creeps up a little bit more, and I don't know which way it'll go because of the quarterback change, but if it gets to 6 or 7, then obviously Cleveland becomes even a better play at that price point.
All right, it stinks, but I'm with you. I'm with you, Scott Kellen. Cleveland +5 is a side. Thanks so much.